our commitment rather than distancing ourselves.
We stand with Israel, their ally, and America is opposed to terrorism.
One concern is the Biden administration's decision to reopen a Palestinian consulate in Jerusalem.
That's an important way for our country to engage with and provide support to the Palestinian people.
Lankford argues it sends the wrong message.
Our embassy is in Jerusalem. That's the focus there. Obviously, the Jewish state is their main headquarters, their Knesset, all their leadership offices are in Jerusalem. That should be a focus. So I have a real concern that sends a mixed message from the United States.
Add to that message plans to reopen a PLO mission here in Washington. Lankford worries that could potentially have a negative impact on fighting terror.
Though I've worked very hard to be able to allow victims of terrorism that are Americans to also hold Palestinian leadership accountable in American courts. And the connection there is if they base any of the Palestinian efforts here in the United States and have a headquarters here in the United States, American families are able to sue Palestinians for damages and for loss for the acts of terrorism that have been carried out against some of these families.
Lankford fears the administration is trying to find a way around that.
And definitely shouldn't send a mixed message to American families that are victims of terrorism that they're not going to be able to get their day in court.
Secretary of State Blinken also recently announced $30 million in U.S. tax dollars will go to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees.
I do not believe we should have restored the funding to that UN organization that handles refugees. They handle refugees in the Palestinian areas different than they handle refugees anywhere else in the world.
Even Blinken recently acknowledged the UN group spreads anti-Semitic education materials, erasing Israel from maps.
We need to make sure the schools are actually not teaching hatred and bigotry to the next generation.
The Biden administration, however, insists support for Israel is strong.
Our stalwart support, our ironclad support for Israel will remain.
Republicans are also concerned with the Biden administration's plans to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal, arguing Iran is funding terrorist enemies of Israel like Hamas and Hezbollah. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.